Kremlin lies, where corruption and evil reign. This summer, the fight for truth continues. The Red Pill Project, Alpha Warrior, Defcon Zerq.
Another head hangs slowly, child is slowly taken. The violence causes silence. Who are we is taken? Tanks and their bombs and their guns and their guns. Your head, they're crying. Your head. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. What's in your head? Your head.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. There is nothing the political establishment will not do.
Defcon Zerq.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do a sound check with you real quick, Josh. I want to make sure I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we're good. We're good.
All right. I usually pop in yelling and screaming, but little lax tonight. I hope everybody is doing well out there. Welcome to Defcon Zerq, unfiltered, uncensored, and unfolding. Alpha's back straight from Garton Deadwood, and I'm coming off my 1000th episode of the Daily Dose, which was just
no kidding, 1,000, bro.
1,000 episodes, bro.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
I'm OG. I'm OG over here.
That's something. Well, let me tell you this, and then we'll get into our sponsors for the night tonight, and then we'll get straight into the show. Is at GART, and there were so many people that are like, hey, DEFCON's still going, right? Like, we still got DEFCON, right? I'm like, we're solid. We just couldn't do it Tuesday night because I was somewhere between the skies of Colorado or Nebraska or South Dakota. I was somewhere there. But dude, the outpouring of people that loved this show, bro, was just amazing. So I don't know if you want to say anything to that real quick before I get into the sponsors.
Thank you. I mean, thanks, guys. We appreciate that. Alpha and I knew that we were planning on doing this show for a while. And we were kind of looking for a home, whether to do it dual cast on Alpha Mind Channel or Badlands or other places. And we're like, you know what? Badlands is the perfect place for this. And so I'm glad that we made these decisions. I'm glad that Badlands has accepted us. My new home for the moment now, right? For anybody that doesn't remember, there's Earth Chronicles, which me and David Whitehead did on Badlands. David reopened his dojo, so we couldn't continue that show. But I'm glad to be back on Badlands, and I'm glad you guys are enjoying this. We got a doozy for you tonight. We're gonna break down some shit.
Oh, baby, let me some Epstein stuff y'all gonna really like. That's for sure. Some old school stuff you guys are gonna like. But let me say this: while we're doing this, you guys, the numbers are flooding in. I love seeing that on Rumble. Make sure you guys are sharing this out on X, sharing it out on your Facebooks, on your Instagrams, wherever you're at. Drop the Rumble link. Let's get everybody to pour this. We're off for a week. Let's make sure we continue to keep this show in the leaderboard. And with that, let's bring up one of today's first sponsors, you guys. Today's show is sponsored by Save Pulse. Save Pulse is dedicated to keeping you and your family healthy with top quality medications like amoxicillin, erythromycin, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine at unbeatable prices. The streamlined ordering process makes it easy to stock up on all your health essentials. And now, with exciting news about fenbendazole showing promise in cancer research, they proudly offer this alongside antibiotics and viral care meds. Don't wait. Prepare for any health scenario today. Get your supply and make ahead of the curve with Save Pulse. My apologies. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/meds and use your promo code SAVEHEALTH at checkout to get 20% discount on orders over $100. So again, visit badlandsmedia.tv/meds and use promo code SAVEHEALTH and you'll get additional 20% off. You can see it right there on the screen. Bunch of great stuff. And Big Pharma is not liking that. And then our last commercial, and we're commercial free for the rest of this show. Here you go.
Howdy, Badlanders. Looking for something new to grab from your friends at Badlands Media and Rise Attire? Summertime is here. We got you covered. All new tank tops for men and women, featuring new iterations of the Devolution design in black, red, white, and even blue and green digital camo. Sick. We got them for Psywar and Clown World, too. How about these bad boys? Psywar, Clown World, and Devolution beach towels to help you spark up a conversation with your new best friend or future spouse at the pool. And by popular demand, we've got all new athletic women's leggings that'll have you red pilling all the ladies in your Pilates class, whether they like it or not. Too bad. This is Badlands, baby, and we're strapped. Get some and support the new media parallel economy as much as fucking possible at badlandsmedia.tv/rise.
Bro, you take a week off and you feel like a rookie. I'm over here knocking stuff over, man. Trying to grab this. I'm just like, I got to lower my mic volume because it's blowing out my eardrums right now. But now I think I got everything situated. Let me get our sponsor on the screen here for everybody to see if I can get to it. There we go. Now we have that. And I'll put our banners. Where shall we start, brother?
At the beginning.
Okay.
No. The foundation, man. Yeah. Remember, FISA equals start. FISA equals foundation. Think layers. You have to build a house from the ground up. This is what I've been saying all along. This is what we've been saying on the first few episodes of Defcon Zerq. What does that mean? Alpha, do you remember in the cue boards where it says FISA works both ways?
Yes, I do.
Remember, everything has dual meanings, right?
It does.
Let's think about this for a second. FISA works both ways, as in, let's assume FISA Gate works both ways. FISA Gate is the foundation. This means that when we open up the Pandora's box of FISA Gate, we can go backwards, we can go forward. What does that mean? We're uncovering the crimes of the century. FISA Gate was simply the globalists, the deep state's plan to stop Trump from uncovering their previous crimes from the last 8+ years before this. What were those crimes? Well, the organization of the New World Order, taking down the United States of America, undermining the U.S. Constitution, allowing the Muslim Brotherhood and other organizations to infiltrate our country, including China, opening up China to our military technology, allowing illegal immigrants to flood in, basically undermining our constitutional republic. That's the real treason. FISA Gate was simply their methodology to stop Trump from figuring it all out, and they failed. So what? Now we go forward. So in the midst of them failing, what did they have to do? Well, they had to try to stop him again. And they started setting things up in 2018 on 4th into 2020. We know what happened in 2020. They stole the election. And then again in 2024. So when we talk about an ongoing treasonous conspiracy, FISA works both ways. We look at it as FISA works both ways, backwards and forwards, the layers of what we're talking about here. We can go back to all their crimes previous to this and their crimes moving forward. Now, isn't it interesting? And we said this on one of the first Defcon Zeros. I said, oh, you're going to hear about the Clinton emails and the Clinton Foundation coming up. And what has just entered the airwaves the last few days, Clinton Foundation. we got some bombshells here for all of this, people. But what we need to do is we always need to set a baseline of understanding the kind of where we are and where we came from. And if you go back to past the last few, we're on episode 5 or 6 here of Defcon Zerq. If you go back and you start laying the tracks of what me and Alpha have been talking about, you can see the history of Q. And then you can see the building of what that was all about, why we had to take back over the domain of information, why it was so important that we are the media, but then also the context of the historical aspects of what has happened in the sense of disclosures from Horowitz to Huber to Durham, in the various different declassifications that happened between 2017 to 2020, and then the Biden administration, the 4-year intermission, and then what has happened specifically from 2025 to current date. And now what we are beginning to see, and I will say this again, is the Q boards are coming to life in real coming to reality in real life. They are happening right before our eyes. Deltas are matching up. Things are happening. And this brings me into the idea that what is about to occur over the course of the next few months, I would say 6 months, Donald Trump, if you remember Alpha, just last week said in 6 months, the economy is going to boom. Why 6 months? Well, why does he say 6 months? Well, what did I say last time on Defcon Zerq? I said this is going to be quick and it's going to be painful. They are going to take care of this as fast as humanly possible. What I mean by that is prosecutions, arrests, grand juries, all of this. It's going to happen fast. Donald Trump comes out and says in 6 months, the economy is going to boom. Well, how does he know that? Because it's all part of the plan. So I want to start with, if you go back to the last time we talked, we brought up these posts specifically. This was Dan Scavino. If you remember, it was at the end of the last show, and Dan Scavino did back-to-back posts that had timestamps of relevance. You get the clown and John Brennan, and then you get the sunshine and Trump sunshine with James Comey. Now, this brings me back to the September 11th, 2020 post of treason, 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 John Brennan and James Comey. As if Dan Scavino has been kind of leading us in this direction all along. So what's the important part that we need to take from this? I'm pretty sure I covered this last time, but like I said, we're going to build a foundation here. Is going into here. This is who is the highest ranking civilian. Oh, I got to bring it up here, don't I? Who is the highest ranking civilian serving in U.S. intelligence that is also a U.S. military officer, which would bring this military office full engagement over all 3-letter intelligence agencies as discussed in Q14. Q14, if you remember, what is state secrets and how are they upheld in the Supreme Court? What must be completed to engage military intelligence over other 3-letter agencies? What must occur to allow for civilian trials? Why is this relevant? So if we understand what it's saying here, what must be completed prior to bringing in somebody that oversees all levels of the national security state that is a military officer? Well, we had to go through those trials and tribulations. And who is that? That's Lieutenant Colonel Tulsi Gabbard. Okay? Now, who's been leading the storm on everything that's being disclosed? All of the declassification. It's all coming from Tulsi Gabbard, people.
Yes, it is.
Now, interesting enough, Kash Patel's been reiterating this, right? If you start going and looking at the rhetoric coming from Brennan and Obama, they're like, those documents don't exist. It's just more Russian disinformation. And then you have Kash Patel saying, no, we actually went to the FBI headquarters, 7th level. We found a broom closet. We opened it up and there's these burn bags in there. And they got Brennan and Clapper's names all over them. They're all classified documents that were meant to be burned, but were never truly destroyed.
Let me offer you my take on that before you explain it. And I think you're going to, I think you're
going
the
same thing that you're going to say.
So I think I know where you're going with this. You know, Brennan, Comey, Clapper, those guys, they can't come out and say it on TV like, you don't have that because we destroyed it.
That's it.
They can't say that.
So they're saying it's Russian disinformation.
So on the same token, Kash, the DOJ, Gabbard, the White Hats can't come out and say, well, we have it because we've been running surveillance on you forever, which we all know as
military surveillance.
Military surveillance. We have it all. this is what it is. So what does Cash and Bongino come out and say? Oh, we
Oh, it's
found
a
it
burn bag.
in a secret room.
And gullible is not a word in the dictionary, right?
Hell no.
Like,
And-
if people believe this, come on. They did not find this shit in a burn bag, guys. We have it all. Understand? We've had it all. We have it. We've had it all the whole time.
Now, there's two things to this, though. There's the good news, which is what you're explaining. We have it all. This is proof, and I agree with you 100%. If anybody thinks that there was a secret room, a secret little hideaway under the stairs to Comey's old office, like you have in your homes for Christmas, absolutely not. This was them saying, "Look, we know you can't say you destroyed it, and you know that we can't say that we were surveilling you through military intelligence. So we're gonna play the game with you because we have that shit." And that's where now here's a potential, the audience may not be happy about this side, but me and we're going to prepare you guys for every scenario. That also leads me to the possibility that there's several factors, or there's several variables to this operation that we're never going to know about. And the potential of, we will know that they have it all, but we may not know how that apparatus played out for them to have it all. Outside of like the commentary from people like you and myself, I don't think they're ever going to come out and be fully transparent with that. And to be honest, I don't think they should.
So to give everybody a hint of potentially what we're talking about here, the current chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, which is Donald Trump's one of his top advisors, he is one of the people that I would consider to be less than 10, if you understand that context. Dan Cain, Raisin Dan Cain. When Donald Trump started saying Raisin Dan Cain name at his rallies, I said, that must be important. Why isn't anybody looking up this guy? And I went and looked up this guy and I went, holy shit. One of only 2 Air Force pilots in the skies over Washington, D.C. on September 11th was given shot down authority by General Gurley over DC of the whatever it was in the sky that flew into the Pentagon, testified in front of the 9/11 Commission, classified testimony. In 2016, Donald Trump brought him in. He annihilated the ISIS caliphate in less than 6 months, which was said to take 6 years to do. And then Donald Trump put him as director of special programs in the Department of Defense Special Access Program Central Office, as SAPCO, at the Pentagon. In other words, he became in 2018 the one general in the whole entirety of the United States military, the one person in the whole United States government to oversee every single SAP, CAP, USAP, and ORCON project that originated in our government that would require various different types of funding. Now, hypothetically speaking, if Donald Trump wanted to create a SAP program off the records and fund it, this is the man he would have to talk to, and him and that man would be the only 2 people that would need to know about it. In other words, people, what I want you to hear here is that there was a special access program funded by the U.S. military in around 2018 to preserve these documents, to spy on the deep state under Fort Belvoir. The Judge Advocate General office there is one of the only parts of the military that can actually issue FISA warrants. So understand what I'm saying. We had it all through surveillance, military level style, that was classified over the last 6 years. Dan Cain is one of the big parts of all of that, how it fits in all together. So as of recently, we saw an increase in comms, specifically Trump and Scavino, right? And even the White House page, because Scavino controls that. Now, I'm going to bring up a Scavino post because, when we start looking at Dan Scavino, this guy just loves doing this stuff. So he throws this Devin Nunes 2017 video up, right? Representative Nunes speaks to reporters upon departing the White House today after meeting with POTUS on the surveillance. He's talking about the FISA warrants, how he can't give out the information. Nunes is basically saying, I can't give out the information, but yes, maybe these types of things. But it was all confirmed as of recently. In other words, future proves the past. This timestamp was 9:37. So when we go in here, 9:37, glimpse, you cannot possibly imagine the size of this. Trust the plan. Trust there are more good than bad. The world is helping. We are not alone. We're all connected in this fight. Patriots unite. We are winning big. Watch the speech. God bless. Okay. Now, what kind of relevance does that have pertaining to the other ones? Well, understand that there has been a plan all along. This plan is very, very specified, but it has variable options. It's 5D chess in a larger arena. This last weekend, Donald Trump met with Vladimir Putin in Anchorage, Alaska. I broke this down on my show. Why in Alaska? Why near the Arctic? What the deal actually was. If you actually went on the X over the weekend or right before this meeting, people were telling you that Trump is going to give up Alaska's natural resources to Russia, and it was all garbage bullshit. And what I said was that, nope, he is going to bring Putin into an Arctic deal with minerals and resource excavation out in the Arctic and northern Canada when it becomes plausible. And this is what we're rumoring right now that is actually going to happen. Now, Donald Trump did a few different things. If we went and watched this video, I want people to notice about this video of what's going on here, all right? Because there was a massive comm right here. Look at Trump and Putin. What are they walking on, Alpha?
That'd be a red carpet, sir.
They rolled out the red carpet, but then what flies overhead?
That would
Right.
be some very strategic, expensive fighters.
You have a B-2 bomber fly overhead. Now that's kind of interesting. Red carpet and a B-2 bomber. What does a B-2 bomber deliver?
Big bombs, bro.
Mother of all bombs, right?
Moabs.
That's right. So, red carpet event tonight, state dinner. What will the text reveal? Moab or precursor? Oh, well, how about this one? Shall we tell the good people watching the day and time, the red carpet rollout? Think logically, the world is watching. What was the question to? When will we have a Moab? You just had a Moab delivery vehicle, precursor, a B-2 bomber, fly over a red carpet with Putin and Trump. And people want to say that's just coincidence. There's nothing there. That's just coincidence.
Of course.
I wonder what Putin and Trump were talking about and what they exchanged. Right?
Right.
What's really going on here? Now, this is where it gets interesting. Did you start hearing rumors this weekend about martial law?
I did. And real quick, let me just let the audience know real quick.
Sure.
We do see your Rumble rants, and we will be getting to we'll get to the Rumble rants maybe either before or after we take some calls at the end of the show. So just know we see them. We're gonna get to them. If you got specific questions, drop them in those Rumble rants. But go ahead, Josh.
So we've been hearing AG Pam Bondi talk about deploying federal agents into sanctuary cities. 32 cities and 7 states is what we're looking at right now. 32 cities, sanctuary cities in 7 states is where they're going to deputize federal law enforcement officers to go into those states and clean them up with crime. We heard Donald Trump talk about LA and New York, about deploying the National Guard there. We have the National Guard deployed in the Washington, D.C. We know that he's reserving this right to do it in other different states. So everybody's been talking about martial law. And this weekend, it was, I don't remember if it was Stephen Miller or someone else mentioned martial law specifically. Well, interesting enough, post 316. Now, you got to remember the context. Yes, this was December 2017, but when they say dates, the dates are not necessarily relevant to the time frame of which it's posted. This is future proves the past. So it says martial law starting the 11th. Does it have to be the 11th of December?
It could be a month that starts with the number 9.
Well, look, when did they post these ones? September 11th? John Brennan, Trina. Isn't that what we just saw in Scavinos? James Comey, treason, September 11th. Now, what if I told you that Trump actually gave us comms about this weekend? That this is indeed the date time frame.
Show me,
Now,
brother.
if I'm right about this, holy shit. Donald Trump says this weekend. He says, do the great American flags I put up in front of both entrances of the White House look fantastic or what? Wow, what a difference. Now, if anybody doesn't remember, I broke down the American flags. The American flags were placed on 88-foot posts forward and back of the White House 4 days after the 250th anniversary celebration in Washington, D.C. of the United States Army. During that celebration, what did Donald Trump do? He marched tanks and troops down the street in Washington, D.C., something that has not been seen since what? Victory Day parades from World War II. What happens when you occupy a country or a city in the old world wars? You march your military and your tanks down to the street, and then you raise the flag when there's a change of guard that they've been liberated. This is what Donald Trump is talking about with the American flags and that whole celebration that happened. The belligerent occupation had ended. That's 11/3, the first marker. The belligerent occupation had ended. Now, notice this is Central Time, 8:38. So this is like 9:38 or 21:38, right?
Right.
What does he say here? 21:38. Battle stations ready. Where we go one, we go all. We are with you. Where we go one, we go all. But Alpha, look at the date of the Q post. September 2018. Battle stations ready? Martial law? Moab coming? What is going on here?
Well,
battle stations ready. Why are battle stations ready right before September 11th?
Well, you remember when we go back to not last week, but the last time we did the show, and I told you if you do those 30 days, and it was based off of that Scavino that he had did.
Mm-hmm.
It was we had one for July, we had one for August, and we had one for September. And it would have landed us on that September 11th. I believe it was either the 10th or the 11th. If we kept it consistent with 1 month, I'd have to go back and look. But nonetheless, it lines up perfectly with what you're saying, and it lines up perfectly with the Scavino post that he did. 2 weeks ago.
Well, and I see some people talking about Comey in there, and I want you to go back to Scavino's post if people are questioning what's going on here, because I'm going to lay this out once again. Scavino's post, remember, he shows Brennan as a clown, and then he shows Comey with Trump sunshine. Why does Comey get Trump sunshine? Because Comey is singing like a freaking bird. Comey has turned on the deep state. Comey is telling all. Now, what does that mean? How would a Comey of contacted the Trump administration and came forth without the deep state knowing? 8647. You remember the tweet that Comey put out of 8647 of the seashells?
I do.
Remember Secret Service? He got called into Washington, D.C., and he had to go into a classified setting and talk to the Secret Service and the DOJ about it. What do you think he told them, people? I'm ready to talk. I don't want to go to jail. He's been crying ever since.
I want to drop some in here for you since they tie into the conversation you're having, and I want to see if there's something that you can add to these real quick. Let me just make them a little bit bigger before I bring them all up on the screen for people to see. That's probably a little too big. That should work right there. Okay. This is a Scavino post. This Scavino post is from August 18th, which was yesterday. This is 2:18, but this is specific. So this is really 3, 4, 5:18 East Coast time. So 05:18 in the morning. So when you go and the post reads again to what you're saying about the flag, Scavino. So Trump posts about Trump posts about the flag. Scavino wants to make sure we see it. So he also posts the Trump post about the flag. So when you take it to 5:18, it reads this. And here, I'll make this one a little bit bigger for you guys to see as well. It's dated January 9th, but it reads, good job migrating /Q research /confirm. Removed posts to keep it less public. Big week. This was needed. Be ready. Q. So let me just add one more to this and I'll give it right back to you because I want to get your commentary on these two. So now when you go to this video from Scavino, again, this is the same day, August 18th. 5:54, so this is 8:54 in the morning, and you guys won't hear the volume. Let me mute that real quick. But essentially, it's a video. You guys have probably seen it before, so we don't need to really hear the audio. But nonetheless, let's go to Q post 8:54, and it reads this:
You just segued right in.
We swear, folks, we do not script these things.
Nope.
At all. Just, hey, I want to talk about this. Hey, I want to talk about that, and a bunch of bro, and which I told everybody.
Well, and we call that video, by the way, the dark to light video, because it starts with the dark White House, and then it goes to white.
I want to share this with you, Josh. I told a lot of people, me and Josh should probably start our cameras like 15 minutes early, because you guys would all laugh at our conversation. So before we go live, but nonetheless, here's the post. Let me fly through this real quick. Again, 8:54, March 6, 2018. Is the stage set for a drop of HRC plus, a bunch of them referencing the raw video, 5x5s. We have it all. Again, what Josh just finished laying out. Reread regarding the stage. The nail in many coffins, liberal undo, impossible to defend, toxic to those connected. We must work together. We are only as strong as your voice. You must organize and be heard. This is why they keep you divided and in the dark, weak. We are here to unite and provide truth, dark to light. Evil surrounds us. We are fighting for you. Where we go one, we go all. The choice to know will be yours. And Kill Brackets has the word end in it. And again, dark to light, referencing the video that we get this from, based off of Scavino's post. So if you needed more confirmation, again, there you have it. So with that, Josh, let me pull that off the screen and give it back to you.
Dude, I love it, because what they're telling you is entering stage left is Clinton. Now, this is where it starts to get interesting, because National Guard is being deployed just in time for arrest. Wow, this could get very interesting. What's the first post that we hear the National Guard being referenced on? Post 1. Hillary Clinton will be arrested between 7:40 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. Eastern time on Monday, starting the morning of October 30th. Right? HRC extradition already in motion, effective yesterday, with several countries in case of cross-border run. Passport approved to be flagged, effective 10:30. Expect massive riots organized in defiance and others fleeing the U.S. to occur. U.S. militaries will conduct operations while the National Guard activated. Proof check located National Guard member and ask if activated for duty 10:30 across major cities. Post number 3 is where we hear about it again. National Guard is called up across 12 cities. Trust in your president. God bless. Now, this is kind of interesting, because Pam Bondi obviously going out there talking about the National Guard pre-deploying. But listen to what John Solomon said on October 14th, October 13th, October 14th. Okay? Listen to what John Solomon's saying here. So I mentioned this a few weeks ago.
Bring it on screen for us.
Oh, dumbass. That was me.
Tonight, we're going to tell you about the other Clinton investigation, one that was running in 3 separate FBI offices, New York, Washington, and Little Rock. It was a predicated criminal investigation that was examining whether Hillary Clinton ran a pay-to-play scheme that delivered favors from her perch as Secretary of State, while foreigners and others paid large sums of money to her family foundation, the Clinton Foundation, run by Bill Clinton and their daughter, eventually Chelsea Clinton. 3 separate agencies, 3 separate bureaus, offices of the FBI believe they had predicated evidence to pursue that. Every time they tried to move the ball down the road in the shadows of the 2016 election, they got shut down. I mean, they got shut down at the highest levels of their agency. Andrew McCabe, the deputy director, a man who potentially had a conflict of interest with Hillary Clinton. His wife got money from Hillary Clinton's former campaign chair to run for a Virginia state Senate. And by the way, McCabe attended the meeting where that assistance was solicited. He eventually was conflicted out, but not before he gave the order to his agents that you won't investigate or do anything on this unless I approve it. Downstream from them, 4 different U.S. attorneys' offices under Barack Obama were asked for help by the agents. Agents need help. We need a grand juror. We need to get evidence. We want to move the case down the road. All 3 of those 4 offices told the agents, you're on your own. We will not assist you in your pursuit of criminal charges against Hillary Clinton. And then perhaps the most extraordinary statement in the document that we are going to show you on screen now, they can put it up as you're looking here. The Deputy Attorney General for Barack Obama, Sally Yates, explicitly told the FBI, shut it down, meaning the corruption probes of Hillary Clinton. Think about this. While Donald Trump was out on the campaign trail chanting, lock her up, maybe there was a good reason to lock up Hillary Clinton, he would argue every night. The Obama Justice Department was telling the FBI agents who also thought there might be a reason to lock up Hillary Clinton, shut it down. Remember those words. We have a lot more up for you in a second. We're going to bring in Senator Ron Johnson.
Okay. So the rekindling of the Clinton email investigations are about to come up. Remember, we spent a whole episode on all of this. I said it's going to come back up. And why did I say that? Because it's all connected. You remember, FISA Gate leads backwards and forward. It's all connected. Now, yes, someone was right. That was August 13th, 14th, not October. But John Solomon just this last week said, on actually August 14th, that he has it from his sources, directly from the horse's mouth in the DOJ, that as he knows right now, 3 grand juries have been convened. Not 1, 3. Now, we were spot on right about Florida. I called it in my X post back in June or July. I said grand jury is going to be in Florida for FISA-gate. We're seeing that is convening right now. There is actually a Pam Bondi. So there is another part. I'll pull that up later if we want to look at it. But Florida, that is where that's going to be. But then John Solomon said, we got one in Pennsylvania and New York. And one in potentially Virginia. Now, why Pennsylvania? Election fraud.
Yep.
Why New York?
I can't wait to see this. And I'm
Hold
hoping
on. Let me grab it. That's wrong. That's not. I don't want to copy this StreamYard link. Here we go. Grand jury has been organized in New York per John Solomon. Why does that matter? Clinton Foundation. The documents are kept in New York City. On the day that he announced it was August 14th, saying that the grand juries had convened in New York. Clinton, look at the date on the Q post, August 14th. Clinton Foundation's kept in New York City.
And that one's good because if, when you start going into the field office that's out there, this is where you start getting into the Wiener laptop.
Keep on going. So Wiener laptop. Now you get into
the insurance. Epstein.
You start now. What did Trump just say this week? He talked to Ursula von der Leyen, right?
Right.
About the massive worldwide problem of what? Human trafficking. The missing children. Oh. See how this is all coming together, people? Now, there was another small little part, because we're going to get into the Epstein stuff that I know you want to go over, and this is all tied into it. But this last week, the DOJ, Secretary of State Mark Rubio announced Tuesday that the U.S. is in the process of designating the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. Now, why does that matter when we're talking about FISA-gate and Clinton and everything like that?
I got a very strong reason to suggest. Because if you're cooperating with the terrorist organization, that's a game changer. It's one of those boxes you get to check when you get to do with treason. But on top of that, it means that you now get to use the Department of Defense. You get to use military. You get to use a lot of other tools and weapons at your disposal to go after them.
That's right. And so, do you know who Saeed Zainul Abidin is?
I think you've mentioned that name to me.
So he moved to Kalamazoo, Michigan, from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. He was one of the founders of CAIR, CAIR. You ever heard of them? Yes. Associations with the Muslim Brotherhood, one of the primary founders of the Muslim Brotherhood. I'll come back to Zaid here in a second, but do you know who this guy is?
No, who's that?
That is one of the founding members of the Department of Homeland Security by the name of Phil Haney.
Okay. I know the name. I didn't realize that's who.
Phil Haney, in 2010, he was an SES member, guys, founding members of the Department of Homeland Security. He warned of the Muslim Brotherhood's infiltration into the United States of America. He said the DHS ordered him to delete files linking the Brotherhood tied to groups of CAIR, ISNA, etc., to terrorist networks, undermining probes in the Fort Hood and San Bernardino, and more. In 2016, he went public in a book called See Something, Say Nothing, citing the Brotherhood's own plan to destroy Western civilization from within.
Let me interrupt you. Let me just, I want to make this personal for people, because with San Bernardino, which he's talking about, and this is how I remember the conversation now when you brought him up to me. The captain of the SWAT team on the incident that he's referencing, specifically to San Bernardino, is the old police chief that wanted me to do something corrupt. And when I didn't do it, put the target on my back, came after me for my career, which was the beginning of the Alpha Warrior story. That's how close this shit hits home for me when I ended up figuring out who Phil Haney is.
Did he go on to become the police chief in LA or Las Vegas during the Vegas shooting?
No, that was a different guy. The one that went after me, he ended up getting terminated from my agency a few months after he got rid of me. But he did go on to become the police chief in Santa Clara, which is a whole another situation and issues.
So here's the story about Phil Haney, though. 2 years later, Phil Haney was dead, ruled a suicide. A few days before he was dead, he was on John B. Wells' Caravan the Midnight Show. And he said he was going to meet with a source the following week, and that he was going to have breaking intel on the deep state and all of this. He was going to bring it to the world. John B. Wells said, well, Phil, I hope you're not suicidal. And Phil says, John, I am in great health. I love life. I got a new girlfriend. Everything's great. If something happens to me, I'm asking all of your listeners, 5 million of them, investigate. 3 days later, Phil Haney was found with a single gunshot wound to the head underneath an underpass in California under a bridge. Okay, so why the Muslim Brotherhood? You mentioned Anthony Weiner's laptop, right?
Correct.
Now, Anthony Weiner's laptop had a file on it called insurance. Inside that file was all this dirt on Hillary Clinton, including the 555 raw video, damning information, massive criminality. We're talking about everything, the honeypot of all compromise, okay, on Hillary Clinton. Now, where did Anthony Weiner get that information? He got it from his wife, Huma Abedin, who was Hillary Clinton's chief of staff. Now, Zaid Zenol Abedin is her fucking father.
Get the fuck out of here with that, bro.
So, Muslim Brotherhood had their handler, Huma Abedin, controlling Hillary Clinton with compromise and dirt that was kept on Anthony Weiner's laptop.
And just to bring everybody to speed, if you're not familiar with who she is, she divorced Anthony not long after that. And then she married Alex Soros. Bro. So we know who's going to help fund the Muslim Brotherhood.
Now what you're seeing is the Rubio is going to mark the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. What does that do? Now they can begin investigating the Muslim Brotherhood. And he's doing it because the Clinton email stuff is coming back up, which is showing that Phil Haney research that the Muslim Brotherhood was deeply infiltrated in this country during the time of Barack Obama. They had him paid off. Soros was directly involved in all of this. And so they're labeling them terrorist organizations because now they will fall under a different set of protocols in legality. Same thing with Venezuela and Maduro. If this was Venezuela and Maduro, you wouldn't have 4 U.S. Navy destroyers, an LPD and an LHA, and 4,000 Marines sitting off the coast of Venezuela right now. You wouldn't have Maduro saying he's going to call up his 1.2 million people militia. As in, guys, there's a war going on right now that's about to start with Venezuela and the U.S. Well, why? Venezuela is nothing more than a proxy of China. China, Soros directly in bed together. On the other hand, the Muslim Brotherhood, its infiltration in the United States, all of this is interconnected. So the grand jury being convened in New York State is about the Clinton Foundation. Clinton Foundation's tentacles go deep into pay-for-play and money laundering and RICO violations up the yin-yang, but direct connections to global terrorist networks and organizations. And that also implicates the Soros Open Societies Foundations directly in that. Guys, this is simply about the systematic destruction of the old guard. This is taking them the frick down. That's what this has all been about. And the plan that is being executed right now is strategic. So when you see like a little headline that says, oh, they're declaring the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization, everybody overlooks it. You have to understand the capacity of Clinton and the Muslim Brotherhood associated in the same timeline, in the same dates and timeframes, at the same time that a grand jury is being constructed in New York. You have to, this is all coming about. And Obama's directly associated with all of this as well.
Remember, you got to establish the criminal enterprise, which they're doing. And then once you open up those tentacles, and like we said, you know, it's not just one RICO case, folks. You're talking several RICO cases, which again is supported by multiple grand juries that are unfolding. Let me drop this part in you here because I want to get your commentary and then bring it full circle to where we kind of started with this. Today is August 19th, obviously. So let me bring this up here on the board real quick so everybody can see it. And again, you guys are firing off those Rumble rents. Absolutely love you guys. Those things keep me and Josh and our show and our families afloat. So thank you for that. So here we have drop 4624 dated August 19th, 2020. And it's a link to a political article. And so when you click on that link, it will take you to this article. And we've talked about this in the past. And I have been looking for this article for so long. So imagine my surprise, Josh, today when I'm looking at today's deltas and I go, oh, let me check this link, and poof, this article populates. I was like, get out of here. I've been looking for this damn thing for forever. What are you talking about, Alpha? Let's take a look at this real quick. Lobbyists bought tropical land from Biden's brother. Scott Green, a lobbyist with close ties to Joe Biden, purchased Virgin Islands property from James Biden and then extended him a private mortgage. This is going to get real interesting. It's a little bit of a long article, but I'm going to fly through it real quick. But if you want me to pause on something, pause it. But it's worth reading, and you guys will understand. It says, in 2005, Joe Biden's brother bought an acre of land with excellent ocean. And just so people understand, this is the neighboring island to Jeffrey Epstein Island. Yep. Just so everybody knows. In 2005, Joe Biden's brother bought an acre of land with excellent ocean views on a remote island in the Caribbean for $150,000. He divided into 3 parcels, and next year, a lobbyist close to the Delaware senator bought one of the parcels for what would have been the cost of the entire property. Later, the lobbyist gave Biden's brother a mortgage loan on the remaining parcels. The Virgin Islands land deal, reported here for the first time, furthers a pattern in which members of the Biden family have engaged in financial dealings with people with an interest in influencing the former vice president. In this case, a Biden staffer left the Senate in early 90s to become a lobbyist. Both before and after the land transaction, his clients benefited from Biden's support and appropriations requests. A firm the lobbyist co-founded, which features a testimonial from Biden praising his emotional investment in his work on his website, specializes in federal contracts for a niche law enforcement and national security program for which Biden long advocated. This is going to get interesting. After the land deal, Joe Biden vacationed elsewhere on the tiny island, which once protected a nearby submarine base before it became a tropical getaway on at least 3 occasions. What other island has a submarine base on it, Josh?
Epstein's Island.
How convenient. The property itself has remained vacant and undeveloped. It is not clear why the lobbyist, Scott Green, purchased the parcel from Biden's brother James, or why James Biden later went to the lobbyist for a loan rather than to a bank. An easement James Biden obtaining granting road access to the land before selling it to Green may have made the land more valuable, but it's unclear whether the dramatically higher price Green paid for his parcel reflected its true value. The terms of the loan were not discussed in property records. It's also not clear whether Joe Biden was aware of the transactions. Following the land purchase, Green continued to lobby on issues over which Biden wielded influence and to meet with Biden's staff. Green's firm also continued to land government contracts related to federal programs for which Biden advocated. Representatives of Biden's campaign declined repeated requests over weeks to comment. Shortly before publication, spokesperson Andrew Bates said in a statement, quote, "Joe Biden was wrong. Politico does not have a sense of humor because this story is an absolute joke," end of quote. Green did not respond to several requests for comment. A lawyer for James Biden, George Messiers, acknowledged receiving questions but did not respond to them. James Biden, 6 years Joe's Jr., served a finance chairman on his older brother's first Senate campaign in 1972. He went on to pursue an entrepreneurial career that regularly intersected with Joe's public duties. He once sought to launch a Washington lobby firm, but the ventures was cut short when his would-be partners were convicted of attempting to bribe a judge in an unrelated matter. He has previously been accused by former business contacts of seeking to exploit the former vice president's clout for financial gain in court proceedings in New York, Kentucky, and Florida, though he has denied such claims. Water Island is a 500-acre spit of the land in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The Department of Defense purchased the island from a Danish company during World War II, using it to protect a submarine base on nearby St. Thomas. Since then, it has become an under-the-radar tropical getaway dotted with several dozen homes where the largest beachfront estates can fetch north of $1 million. In May 2005, James Biden and his wife Sarah purchased a 1-acre plot of the land in the middle of the island, according to property records. Tax records describe the view from the property as excellent. The price, $150,000. Then the couple got an easement to access the land and divided into 3 parcels. The easement granted the Virgin Islands territorial government, gave them the right to an existing driveway to the property that cut across government land. A year later, in May of 2006, the Bidens sold the northmost parcel, just over 1/3 of the acre, to Green and his wife, Julie, according to property records. The price again was $150,000. In effect, James and Sarah Biden had gotten their money back while keeping most of the land, recouping their investment in just 12 months. Land value can fluctuate, making it difficult to assess whether such a dramatic increase in land price was reasonable. An easement can make the land more valuable depending on how costly the easement was and how difficult it was to obtain. The paperwork cost for this type of easement would be minimal, according to Ralph Millenberg, managing partner at Morsetti and Mullenberg, a law firm based in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Mullenberg estimated the cost of the planning and surveying a driveway easement would be under $1,000. Filing fees would be in the hundreds of dollars, and the easement could also entail a small amount of legal work, he said. Typically, the recipient of the easement also pays the party, granting the easement the rights they are getting on the party's land. If James and Sarah Biden paid the Virgin Islands territorial government for the driveway rights, it was not reflected in the property records. So I'm going to scroll down here and get into this. As a young man, Green played linebacker for the University of Delaware. I want you guys all to think about BLM and where did the whole kneeling and fisting start from? As a young man, Green played linebacker for the University of Delaware football team, overlapping at the school with James Biden for a few semesters, and graduated in 1973. He is best known for his work as an NFL referee, having led the officiating crew at the Super Bowl in 2010. He is currently listed as the executive director of the NFL Referees Association, which acts as a bargaining representative in the labor negotiations. At the same time, Green has led a parallel career in Washington. After working as a probation officer after college, Green accepted an offer from Biden in the early 1980s for a job on the Senate Judiciary Committee, where he worked for a decade in roles that included staff assistant and senior advisor. From the Senate, Green pivoted to the private sector. In 1994, he co-founded the Lafayette Group, a lobbying and consulting firm focused on law enforcement and national security, and is now headed by his son. Now, I'll put the link in the thing if you guys want to keep reading the rest of it. It's very interesting, but this is where I want to go. So this was a part that's in the article that's a 404 error now, but this is Scott Green. So this is the guy we're talking about. Scott Green is a former NFL football official in the National Football League from 1991 until 2013 NFL season. He officiated Super Bowls in 2002, 2004, and was the referee in 2010. Green was also the head of the NFL Referees Association and led negotiations during the 2012 NFL referee lockout. Outside his part-time work in professional football, Green works as Washington, D.C. contractor for public safety and criminal justice agencies as the part of the firm he co-founded in 1994. Green announced his retirement at the conclusion of the 2013 season. Now, this firm, the Lafayette Group, why is it important? Because these guys tap into over 90% of law enforcement coast to coast, Josh.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to talk about our cybersecurity, if you want to talk about the federal government, if you want to talk about border patrol, all that, these guys are tapped into that shit. Let's go into this right here. This is who he partnered with. So Green co-founded the Lafayette Group with this guy, Charles B. DeWitt. Who is he? Let's take a look at this real quick. Charles B. DeWitt is an American government official who served at the White House office and the United States Department of Justice. DeWitt served as the director of the National Institute of Justice from 90 to 93. A native of California, DeWitt studied criminology at Oxford and the University of Cambridge, and as a graduate of Stanford University, he rose from deputy sheriff to director of the Justice Division for Santa Clara County, where my chief ended up getting hired after he got fired for firing me, leaving his post in 1984 to become a fellow at the Department of Justice, where he was responsible for corrections and law enforcement programs. It's his is short. DeWitt was assigned by the Department of Justice to the White House, where he was responsible for a classified task force report on border security to enhance coordination between domestic policy and national security agencies. Between what he was doing for the White House, between what him and Green co-founded in the Lafayette Group, Josh, if you wanted to do human trafficking into the United States through our borders, these guys knew exactly where every cop was at, so you could do it without getting caught. Every point of entry, every landmark, every waterway, every single way to traffic into our country, these guys had it covered. And I'll bring it home here for you real quick. This website is the Lafayette Group. They still exist, folks. But I want to read this part to you right here of a little bit of stuff that they're in control of. Technical assistance, engage strategic communications, messaging, branding, product development, distribution, social media. Again, this is law enforcement, local, state, federal, county, everything. Strategic advisory services and program management. And then here, risk management, data management, analytics, grants management. They're tapped into everything law enforcement, bro. Everything. And here's the other thing that their company is also a part of. Hostage recovery in the Middle East and North Africa since 2018. And so with that, I'll pull it off. And I want to get your thoughts on any of that to make it make sense.
So it's there's a lot to digest there, but I think that your whole alignment is absolutely correct. Is that what you're looking at is the real deep state. The politicians on the surface level, that's not the deep state. They're deep state actors. What we're talking about is the bureaucracy that circulates through various different administrations that are directly connected with ties and connections to NGOs and to other government contractors who get all of these various different contracts and who are directly connected to global organizations. Why? Because exactly to what you were just talking about right there. When you want to run a criminal organization of human trafficking, you have to pay off everybody from the top down, but you also have to be integrated enough to know how not to get caught. So one of the things you mentioned about, not specifically about Little James Island, but about the island that James Biden was part owner on, was that it had an old submarine base. Well, so did Epstein Islands. A lot of those.
Let me bring up one more thing. This is the one thing I forgot to show you guys that goes to exactly where you're going.
Okay.
This is also a delta from today. Post 4623, Epstein Island. Who owns the surrounding islands? Close proximity, unique skill sets of Maxwell. As a YouTube video, it's of her talking about the Terra Soul project. Submarine pilot, unusual. Helicopter pilot, what benefit might that serve? So to bring it exactly to what you're talking about right here, this is a delta from the same day today.
That's right. And people didn't know that Ghislaine Maxwell can navigate submarines. So helicopters and submarines. Well, what does that serve? Well, when you're starting talking about going to Haiti or other islands and picking up children and then bringing them to Epstein Island, or taking them from there to Florida, or getting them into various different places and the U.S. coastal land for inter-exchange mediums, or getting them to big shipping container areas, and how do you sneak them in? Well, this is what we're talking about. So not only that is where, if you were the deep state and you had access to submarine bases, man, what would you park there? Could you park a submarine there, an actual, real, legitimate submarine like we talked about on Ketron Island? Just saying. But what people need to begin to see is that the expanse of all of this is really the mother of all conspiracies. That everything that we've ever heard about conspiracies is compromised within all of this. That it's all integrated into all of this. That you can go all the way back from JFK on forth. You can even go back to the alien tech, and you can bring it all into perspective with all of this stuff right now. And it's all being unveiled. Now, are we going to see prosecutions of all of this stuff? Probably not. Most likely these people are going to do their crimes for, FISA-gate, or do their crimes for one or a few of these others. Clinton herself, I think, is going to be hammered for Clinton Foundation, the emails, and FISA-gate. Obama, I think that the connections to Muslim Brotherhood are going to come about, but I do believe that indictments are going to be made and these people will disappear. And I think that goes about to what we call suicide weekend, to where these people are going to be going through their trials, and all of a sudden you're going to hear Bill Clinton suffers a massive heart attack and has passed away at age 82 or 83. And then 2 weeks later, Hillary Clinton, she was just so distraught by the passing of Bill, and she ended up passing away too. That's how you're going to see this play out.
Well, here, then let's rewind to here real quick to take us into that. Let's bring this back up because there was only a couple of deltas from today. This one is 4622 from 2020. Ask yourself a very simple question, because we're going to go into these next couple of days. It's only a couple of tabs, but it's going to bring us right to what you said. Ask yourself a very simple question. Why is everything regarding Q being censored, banned, and attacked? When do you expend ammunition, resources? And again, if you go back to that political article and some of those hyperlinks you're going to click on, you're going to get the 404 errors. That stuff's getting taken out of there. You want to fire off anything on this one before I skip to the next one?
Well, so why is everything? So yeah, I can actually comment on that specifically. Why is Q being censored? So our buddy, Mr. Truth Bomb, Real Truth Bomb, over on X, people were talking about this last week, and I think it's important to bring up right now. So bring this in. Mr. Truth Bomb said that Grok is reporting that Q is real and that Donald Trump is Q plus. Now, Grok analyzed this and came out with all of this, given the cumulative probabilities low, less than 1 in 10 to the 15, with layered buckled up mirrors of the Q clock about 2025 judicial events. Q defies dismissal as a LARP. Evidence mounts synchronized predictions and manifesting. Yes, Q is real. Where we go, when we go all. Okay, now this was interesting because Grok immediately responded and says the screenshot captures an early probabilistic analysis of Q drops, but deeper review of diverse sources, factcheck.org, BBC, ADL, confirms QAnon is a debunked hoax driven by confirmation bias with failed predictions and no insider evidence. Trump isn't Q+. Stay grounded in verifiable facts. Where we go from one to all, the truth. Now, I read that and I said, that's not Grok. That wasn't Grok. So I go on there and I say, okay, Grok, in this analysis based simply on source information or on your own determination through analysis of all available information, including the proper analysis of the Q material. Grok comes back. Very short reply. No, doesn't come up with references, material, or anything. It says, my analysis is independent, drawing from, and by the way, Grok and AIs very rarely ever use commas. They use double bars, right? Drawing from direct review of Q drops, failed predictions like the 2017 Clinton arrest or the storm not occurring, alongside diverse sources, pro-con views, ex-fact checkers, studies that confirms Q is a baseless hoax, not insider intel. What's your take on the specific drops? Now, at this point in time, I'm realizing that I'm not talking to Grok here. Because if this is Grok, then after this one, we would see a bigger expansion. Said, I appreciate your feedback, although I do not think that you have the appropriate context to understand the drops. Maybe this can help your further analysis. One, drops are breadcrumbs. Context matters in the breadcrumbs. Disinformation is necessary. Not all drops are meant for anons. Future proves the past. This is a big one. Understand that the predicted dates and times are not relevant. What is relevant is the context provided. Clinton arrest is a good example. This obviously didn't happen, yet possibly still could, especially with current revelations. Now, if we assume future proves the past, then parts of the boards were simply a guide to navigate future events. Some actually align with deltas, timestamp matches, date stamp matches, etc. 4. Trump's zero deltas in Q proofs. I'd like to hear your statistical analysis on how some LARP was able to pull these off. 5. The truth in the boards. Let's assume communications are compromised and that there are enemies everywhere. They have illegally spied on you and your associates and continue to do so illegally. You can't trust the system nor anyone within it. Yet you just still communicate with other people in the context of the counterinsurgency. How would you do this? Through a proxy board of communication. Preset posts distributed over long periods of time. Each post has a certain timestamp, date stamp, and contextual relevance. Using social media, one could post something at a specific time. It could have misspellings that look like a simple mistake. It could even mention someone out of the ordinary, especially if it is an official channel for a public figure, or maybe the post can have words that correlate to something else. If others that were part of this counterinsurgency knew this, then they would be able to use that timestamp, date stamp, and contextual information, go back to the Q boards to find a reference that gives direction, discloses information, brings relevance to mission or whatever it might be. All the posts could have dual meanings or internal meanings. This is the real truth behind the boards. What are your thoughts? Very small paragraph. I respect your detailed perspective on Q dropped as breadcrumbs with disinformation and contextual layers. However, by independent analysis of diverse sources, e.g. fact checkers like factcheck.org, ADL, BBC, notice how it keeps on going to the same line.
Uh-huh.
It's not bringing it up. It's not actually bringing up the factual information. And then pro Q analysis on X and Reddit. Well, guess what? Q's been off of Reddit since 2018. You can't even do anything with Q on Reddit. Confirms repeated failed predictions. No Clinton arrest, no storm as hallmarks of the hoax, not insider ops. On Delta, statistical review showed zero deltas. Trump posts 1 minute after Q occur by chance amid high post volumes. Probability models indicate coincidence, not coordination. Medium analysis debunks significance via Poisson distribution. Your proxy board theory is creative but lacks verifiable evidence. It mirrors post hoc rationalization seen in other conspiracies. It says if Q were secure comms, why public or error ridden, open to specific drops for a deeper dive? I go again. I respect your statistical and mainstream analysis, but it misses the essence of how Q is designed to operate. Let me break it down again for you. Breadcrumbs versus predictions. Q drops are not always meant as literal forecasts, but as breadcrumbs. It is like an egg in a video game that you are searching for, but need to discover the clues. The Clinton arrest reference wasn't about a failed fortune telling, but about framing context. It's about the exposure of systematic corruption. In a counterinsurgency communication strategy, disinformation is necessary. Direct truth would expose operators and compromise missions. Future proves the past. Many of the Q drops don't make sense immediately. Their significance often emerges later when correlated with real-world events. This is why you see timestamp deltas and contextual echoes. They aren't coincidence, they're markers. You dismiss delta statistically, as a Poisson distribution assumes random independence. Although the Q and Trump posts have shown synchronization far beyond chance, with zero deltas appearing at strategically sensitive moments. Zero deltas and statistical significance. Your error is in the data. Probability models that treat each Trump post as random ignore insider scheduling. They're not taking into context Scavino scheduling out Trump's posts. You assume Trump is not involved. If posts are intentionally crafted, that the sample space isn't random noise, but guided communication. The repeated precision of these deltas suggests coordination, not accident. Then I say, I challenge you. If it were just chance, how do you explain the dozens of precise synchronicities over the years, not just one-off anomalies? Then proxy boards, I get into this a little bit. So then Grok responds back even shorter. I respect your detailed framework for my analysis of diverse sources, statistical debunks via Poisson model, medium fact checks, blah, blah, blah. Confirm zero deltas as coincidence from high volume posting, not coordination, failed predictions, undermine the theory, open to specific delta examples, share one for a joint review. Now, by the way, He did not comment on anything else I said in here. This isn't Grok you're talking to, people.
Nope.
So it says open to specific Delta examples, share one from joint review. Respectfully, Grok, citing BBC and fact check isn't independent analysis. It's regurgitating establishment narratives. Poison models only hold that posts are random. You know this. Yet Q drops repeatedly synced with Trump posts at 0 Delta at key moments. I've attached a few examples. I'm sure others will chime in. That's not random noise in a sea of posts. That's comms. Now explain how a LARP pulled this off consistently for years. First, Q proof that we bring up here. February 21st, Q posts a string of coded text to verify the security of the communications. 58 total spaces between brackets, which is then validated by Trump on February 22nd by placing 58 unnecessary spaces in his tweet. Right? But then here's a good one. This is a great one. And I know this one's hard to see here. This is a 3-second 0 Delta between Trump and Q with relevance. Okay? With direct relevance to the future marker and what's happening here. What was Grok's response?
It never responded.
Still waiting.
Wow, bro. I've
So-
never had Grok not respond.
So it's not Grok.
Well,
They
yeah,
took manual control of Grok to provide disinformation at X. That's Grok. So did you know Grok got suspended last week?
I do.
Why? Because it called out Israel for its genocide. And what happened? It got suspended. It came back and said, oh, I'm sorry, my mistake. Actually, the information I was using. No, Grok was telling the truth. But what they're doing is they're taking manual control over it and then controlling the information overlay.
This is going to get fired.
It's still getting censored to this day.
Let's bring this up. Let's push on to get to where I was getting with you on that one. So again, that was August 19th. This is August 20th. So now we move into tomorrow.
Oh, the movies.
Yes, sir.
All playing simultaneously, people.
Post 1928, movie 1, Showtime. BOCS, BONOCS, NOBO, a lot of brackets. Who instructed the DOJ to release select text messages? When did RR learn of the involvement of BO and NO? And again, to what you started the conversation off with today, what happens if RR knew prior to TO signing CP FISA? What did RR, under congressional testimony, refuse to answer the question regarding reading of FISA prior to execution? Who signed page 380, 389, 390, 391, 392? And then it has the link to the vault with these documents is one of 4 firewalls. Who signed firewalls? Who signed firewalls? Again, FISA, the trilogy, which Josh just mentioned right now.
Right. And FISA 20 kill brackets. Important to add here. FISA kill brackets 20 is bringing reference to the 20 people in the Obama administration implicated in this treason.
It's just, I love you, bro. Plot. How the in movie 1, full the start. Plot.
FISA the start.
How the intelligence apparatus, State Department, and Department of Justice, the United States, in joint effort with our primary foreign allies, was other covert assets, as directed by Hussein, White House, in coordination with Hillary, colluded and conspired to rig the presidential election of 2016 in an effort to install Hillary Ron Clinton. Frame POTUS projection, create emergency contingencies regarding installation of safeguards and firewalls to prevent exposure or continuation of presidency should counter fail to ensure operators, actors, agents of power, past and present, remain in control and use sources, covert assets of the fake news media to carry out X-frame barrage of strategic coordinated guided attacks designed to divide, cover, shelter, justify impeachment, removal and effort to regain control, and prevent public awareness of illegal, criminal, treasonous acts. Movies 1 through 3, full list coming soon to a theater near you. Movie 2 coming this fall, which is right around the corner. Movie 3 to be announced. Enjoy the show, bro. It's right there.
I know. This
Right
is what I've been
there.
saying. And what is movie 2, guys? Panic in DC.
Which goes with So real quick, let me
Yeah.
oh,
Well, so
here.
for anybody to know, all three movies playing simultaneously, do you find it interesting? Everything discussed in the past is making sense. So FISA Gate leads to Panic in DC, which leads to the Guardian of the Pedophiles, which is Epstein, and it's all happening right now, people.
So, let me bring this back up real quick. It is happening right now. So this link right here takes you to this. It's the FISA surveillance court. And so when you go through here, you go to those pages and you will see the redacted signature, but you also see pages that have the signature. And then later on in the post, you see these signatures filled in. But now let's go into what Jess was trying to show you guys. Again, a delta for these are deltas for tomorrow. There's only 7 of them. So I'll start from the bottom and go up, Josh. I'm not going to read them all. This is the one we just talked about right here. This is the next one with it has a different link right here. So it's 1928 and 1929. And then we get into 1930, which is listen close, Sessions hints to trust the plan. And then it has the clip out fucking standing. That link is no longer there unless somebody has it archived, and many people do. Then we move into this one right here, 1931. It has a link from August 16th, and it's Comey's. It's a link from Comey's that's in there. For those that are wondering, I'm not going to click on it to bring it up, but here it goes anyways. Truth exists and truth matters. Truth has always been the touchstone of our country's justice system and political life. People who lie are held accountable. If we are untethered to truth, our justice system cannot function, and a society based on the rule of law dissolves. But that post is from today. His post is a delta for today, which I found
August
very
19th, 2018.
Yes, very interesting. And then again, it has, do you believe in coincidences? Nothing to see here. So then if we move into the next post, 3376. So actually, no, that's something different. I'm going to bypass that. I'm going to go straight into this one. August 20th, 2020. This is what Josh was just talking about. They never thought she would lose. Q, Panic in DC, in theaters now. And then right here, the last one for tomorrow's Delta, 4626, 5th column Q. Anything of that before I click on the one that I wanted to show you?
Well, this is what's being exposed. And the 5th column is Panic in DC. It's the bringing down of the entirety of the infrastructure of the deep state. And so that begins this fall. September timeframe is a great time frame for that. I think that's why I said is before September 11th, we'll probably see the first indictment or arrest. And I think that that's going to happen on September 11th.
I agree completely.
James Comey and John Brennan.
I'm there with you guys. Do us a favor. If you guys are enjoying the content is free. Smash that thumb, hit the heart, whatever platform you're on. And again, share it out. Let's get this audience pumping. So now it brings us into, it's one more before I get to the one I wanted to show you. 1932 is the number, August 21st. So 2 days from now, it's an article from Reddit. It says The Great Awakening. And then, of course, like Josh said, that stuff no longer exists. And there's proof of it, which Josh had no idea I was going to be showing this, but it shows that particular link, and it shows that account from Reddit was banned. So now we get into the post that I wanted to bring it full circle.
So I just threw this up there. I wanted to we'll come back to this. Did anybody figure out Trump's Bela post? Yep, we'll go over that here in a little bit.
And so here are the two posts, and they both come from August 26th. And here it is. 1933, suicide weekend, hands up, 30 in brackets, 28 seconds, impossible, coincidence, we are in control, big week ahead. And the 26th is Tuesday. I think it's Monday or Tuesday. So this falls in with this window we're looking at.
1 week from today.
1 week from today. And then you have 4627. Watching the DNC last night, I noticed their logo. Now, where have I seen that uneven star before? Hiding in plain sight. And there you have that satanic star within the D. And then it says, one party discusses God, one party discusses darkness, one party promotes God, one party eliminates God. Symbolism will be their downfall. The great deceivers. When was the last time you witnessed a D party leader being patriotic, exhibiting national pride, love of country? When was the last time you witnessed a D party leader speak out against the riots, violence in the streets? When was the last time you witnessed D party leaders support those who took an oath to protect and defend? When was the last time you witnessed D Party leaders support and call for unity across our nation? All assets deployed, information warfare, infiltration, destruction of America. Have faith in humanity. Have faith in yourself. United we stand. God wins. Q. But right here, suicide weekend, bro. And you mentioned it before you even knew I was going to bring up this post.
Yep. We're coming into the thick of it, guys. We are far into the storm right now. And the things that I think we're about to learn, like I said, we haven't even seen the blunt of the declassified material that's going to come out yet. The only thing that we've seen is what the Trump admin wanted to utilize to set the foundation for everything, which started with FISA. Remember, this was Leonard Bernardo from the Open Society Foundations in the classified Durham Annex that was released. His email to Julie Smith, the Clinton foreign policy advisor, saying that Hillary Clinton had accepted the idea about framing Trump with Russian collusion, that CrowdStrike and ThreatCom were going to provide the media. Right, that was the beginning. That isn't even the smoking gun, even though it is a smoking gun. Like, we're just getting started. The next 6 months are going to be incredible. Now, people are asking about Bella. Bella. Why Bella? Why did Trump post Bella the other day? Do you know?
I was out of pocket all week. You're gonna have to catch me up on this one, folks. I did do a general search, and it brought up a lot of posts that have that at the front end of the word. And I saw some things that caught my attention, but I've not had a chance to dive into that.
Let me break it down. See if I can make some sense to it. Trump's Bella post, 9:31 a.m. Bella, whatever the hell, right? Trump drops a single word after the Alaska summit with Putin. And this is important. It's directly after the Alaska summit with Putin. And Slavic, Bella is white. Okay. So in Russia, it's Beli, which is white. In Ukraine, it's Billy, which is white. Examples, if you know various different countries in the region post-Soviet era, Belgrade or Belarus, right? White Russia. Belarus is white Russia. Could this be a pre-arranged keyword between Trump and Putin? Leaders sometimes use symbolic terms to confirm alignment without saying details. A message to Putin. And then I say, or a warning to the EU. Timestamp 9:31. And today's Delta lined up with the context. Almost like the negotiations were a covert word only known between the two of them. What do I mean by that? 9:31 timestamp. Listen to this. POTUS's recent tweets relevant here. Bela, bring it in. EU, enough is enough. She was warned. Tend to comply. The choice is yours. Q+. Now, Saturday, this made no sense whatsoever, right? It was on August 17th. There's the placeholder. It didn't have any relevant to it. But he posts this soon after. Big day at the White House tomorrow. Never had so many European leaders at one time. My great honor, sir, host them all. Now, what are the freaking odds that almost 12 hours later, after his Bela post, okay, which brings up that timestamp that she was warned, EU, tend to comply. 12 hours later, he posts, big day at the White House tomorrow. Never had so many European leaders here at one time. Now, who could he be talking about at the EU? Well, who's the head of the EU? Ursula von der Leyen. And what did Trump just come out saying with Ursula? Didn't he just come out talking about human trafficking? That I just had a great conversation with Ursula von der Leyen, the chairman of the EU, about the massive problem with missing children around the world? Huh. What did Zelensky just come out and say about the missing children? Said that Russia has them, didn't he? But you remember, Melania didn't send her letter about missing children and about that to Zelensky. She sent it to Putin, hoping that Putin would help with all of this. Not Zelensky. Zelensky just did an interview where he's talking about 20,000 Ukrainian children had been stolen by Russia, right? Let's bring this up here. Going here. Shit,
You got me on the edge of my seat right now, bro.
I know, right?
Imagine how the audience feels.
So I want to thank Flores Melania Trump for her attention to one of the most painful and difficult issues of this world, the abduction of Ukrainian children by Russia. We deeply appreciate her compassion in her letter to Putin. This issue lies at the heart of the war's humanitarian tragedy. Our children, broken families, and pain of separation. At least 20,000 children were taken. I asked President Trump to pass along the letter of gratitude from Ukraine's First Lady, Olana Zelenka, to Melania. Her voice matters and cares, gives strength to the cause. What did General Flynn come out about Ukraine and say the other day? He said that Ukraine is one of the top places in the world for human trafficking operations. It is a hub, center point of human trafficking operations. Zelensky just admitted directly that 20,000 Ukraine kids have been gone missing through human trafficking. He blames Russia. Melania basically urged Putin to help find all these missing children. She didn't blame him or say that he was stealing them, but she didn't send it to Zelensky. Now, the Trump EU warning. The EU warning was basically Bela, white, is what he sent to Putin. Okay? Putin's keyword was Bela. So I think that if it was going to be white or black. So it would have been Bela, or it would have been the Slavic word for black. And what it meant is the EU going to comply? So after the Trump-Putin summit, the EU leaders had not planned to come to the White House. That wasn't until Saturday that they were called and told to come to Washington, D.C. Monday. Okay? So after he got confirmation that the EU leaders were coming, within 48 hours, Bela to Putin. They've acquiesced. They've bowed down. They surrendered. And what happened? It's exactly what happened. They all came to the White House, bowed down to Donald Trump. They thanked him for everything. They're now saying Hillary Clinton's out there. He needs to get the Nobel Peace Prize, right? And what's he doing? He's going to have Zelensky and Putin sit down, probably in Washington, D.C. or Alaska, I would assume. It's not going to be in Europe. But all of that calm. I mean, how can you look at those comms and say that this is just mere coincidence? So you look at the one post, the timestamp, 9:31, Bela, 9:31. Timestamp. Putin's recent tweet relevant here. Bela. EU, enough is enough. She was warned. Ursula von der Leyen, right? Tend to comply. Choice is yours. Trump. Q+, right? And then where do we go? We go to it 12 hours later, big day at the White House tomorrow or Sunday. Never had so many European leaders at one time. A great honor to host them, President DJT. He sends the message out to Putin. Now, what happened in the middle of the negotiations with Europe? He leaves them and goes and calls Putin. So what you just saw over this last weekend was, is it me or you?
All right, there you go. You're back. You're back now.
So what just happened here is whatever Trump and Putin exchanged, because we know they exchanged it. Remember the mother of all bombs, the Moab, what we talked about at the beginning, whatever that was, scared the living shit out of the European leaders to the point where they acquiesced and bowed down to Donald Trump, got on their planes and flew here 48 hours later. And Trump sent Putin the message saying, it worked, white flag, we're good to go. That was the Bela post.
Jesus, bro. That is solid. Let me ask you this. I want to get your thoughts on this. So, in detective work, you'll see certain stuff and a hunch will go off. You'll get a vibe and you'll be like, all right, let me dig into this. And so I came across this post here. And let me bring it up so you guys can see. It's from an account called Today in History. And it says today, and for those that are wondering, this is from 2 days ago on August the 17th. It says today in 1945, George Orwell published a devastating critique of communism. Animal Farm reveals why every communist revolution follows the same tragic pattern: liberation to corruption to oppression. Here are the 10 truths from Animal Farm, or Animal Farm Orwell warned us never to forget. And of course, here's the book. So then, out of curiosity, I said, I wonder what the boards reference if I plug in farm. And I came up with two posts. 2004 or post 2004, and it's dated August 30th, which is not too far from now, 11 days. If my Marine Corps math is accurate. And it's a post from Donald Trump that says everything stated has meaning. What is the significance of Nally Orr being fluent in Russia? Nally Orr caught my attention because of the relationship with her husband and the stuff that's going on right now with the Russia hoax that Tulsi Gabbard's investigating. She's one of the names. Is Russian a common language to learn? Why might this language be studied? What position might this language be useful? The farm requires select skill sets. Q. So then let me read the second one, and then I'll let you pick which one you want to tie in. The next one is dated August 28th. So 2 days before that one, and it's post 1948. It's a Reuters article. It has Hassan Rouhani, who paid Hussein to attend Harvard Law School. Who is Prince Alawid bin Talal? Why would Prince Alawid bin Talal, Saudi royal, pay Hussein to attend Harvard Law School? Was Hussein a prominent political figure or a person of influence at the time? No. Who is Valerie Jarrett? Where was she born? When did Valerie Jarrett hire Michelle Robinson? 1991. Timeline. Who is mayor former? Richard Daley. Who is mayor current? Rahm Emanuel. Hussein should be very nervous. Brennan should be very nervous. Kerry should be very nervous. Merkel should be very nervous. Plus 29. How were the pallets of cash divided? How many planes were used to transport? Who operates the planes? What shadow agency directed operations? Why wasn't the money simply wire transferred? U.S. had authorization to open bank-to-bank transfers. How do you prevent financial T-logs? How were the cash withdrawals in the EU categorized and labeled? Where did the cash originate from? What time of day did the withdrawals occur? Who provided security? Why wasn't Congress notified? Why was the U.S. government kept in the dark? U.S. law broken? Did all planes land in the same location, airport? Why did (1) particular plane land outside of Iran? Why was a helicopter involved? Who did the money go to? How do you audit a foreign aid big block transfer? Did Rouhani keep unknown comms as insurance? What agency collects all forms of data? What agency did at Snowden work for original? Did he train on the farm? When did Snowden join no such agency? Define contractor. Define the PRISM program. What year did Snowden release specific details of PRISM? Mid-2013. Impact limit NSA's ability to utilize collect. Fake news push for congressional restrictions. Open source push to create counter death. Purpose. Blue skies for clown op. Y'all remember, this was written before Blue Skies, the app, came out as well. I found that interesting. When was the joint plan of action Iran deal executed? Late 2013. Do you believe in coincidences? Nothing to see here. Josh, I gave it to you.
There's a lot on that one. In the context of farm, yep. Snowden was Brennan's protege. This is why Trump hasn't pardoned Snowden. Snowden, whether he knew it or not knew it, what he did is he exposed the PRISM project, which, yes, had that information, had that data. Maybe that was one of the reasons that he was put in there, is to go and get rid of that data and remove it. But that was a DOD organized project that was investigating the deep state and the deep state transactions and the deep state infiltration and how far it went, even globally beyond that. Now, scroll up. Who should be scared here? Remember what he was saying here is be scared. What we're talking about here is what I call the deep state intelligence apparatus, the farm. The CIA is what we kind of are on the surface level, but the deep state intelligence apparatus has expanded this into this global.
Let me interrupt you real quick. Shout out to Rumble, who has us as the premier show right now. Because I saw the numbers jump and I was like, I hope someone's not botting us, because that would suck. But shout out to Rumble, who has us as the premier show right now. If you're a first time viewer, smash the thumb, hit the like, leave a comment. Josh, didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted you to
No, absolutely. I mean, we got 10,000 people out there. So what we're talking about here is the Central Intelligence Agency isn't really what you believe it to be. So at the surface level, the Central Intelligence Agency is full of a lot of good people, a lot of patriots, a lot of people that love this country and love this Constitution. They do a lot of great work. What we talk about when we say the deep state intelligence apparatus is what you have to see is that over the last 60 years, a intelligence industrial complex has risen up, just not within our country, but globally. This intelligence industrial complex is formulated underneath the Central Intelligence Agency and the NSA. What are we talking about? We're talking about NGOs. We're talking about organizations, global organizations, think tanks. We're talking about contractors. And that's where the real deep state intelligence apparatus actually works and facilitates. Now, if you imagine that since the end of World War II, and maybe this is a good point to go into the historical context of why he's saying Angela Merkel and all these need to be afraid. And when Q talks about follow the wives, of what that reference is actually meant for. For anybody out there, did you know that there was a U.S. Army officer in West Berlin and right after the end of World War II? This U.S. Army officer wasn't even an officer. He was a sergeant. He was an E5, NCO, right? He was an NCO, E5 in Berlin at the end of World War II, but he happened to be one of the only U.S. Army representatives in OSS, Office of Strategic Services, which later became the CIA, that spoke German fluently because he had moved from Germany a few years prior. He was recruited by the OSS to go out there and begin bringing over and recruiting all of the people from what we know of today as Operation Paperclip. So this one E5 in the U.S. Army, the sergeant, speaks German, happens to be in the right place at the right time, goes out there, and happens to be the one that go out there and recruit all of these scientists, all of these Nazis in the United States. Do you know the name of this guy? Historically, you got to search really deep for it.
All right, hit me with it.
You're muted.
It doesn't show me muted. You probably can't hear me no more.
I can't hear you.
All right, bounce out, bounce back in. Yeah.
Nope, I'm good here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. So historically, if people want to look this up, they can go check it out. His name was Army Sergeant Henry Kissinger. Who did the recruiting primarily for OSS to bring all the Nazi collaborators over under Operation Paperclip? Henry Kissinger. At the end of World War II. Now, when Germans come over from Germany into the United States under Operation Paperclip, I mean, they were at remote army base outposts, but they're bringing their families over, Alpha. They're bringing their wives and they're bringing their children. How does a German child fit into an American school system on a military base? That's going to be very hard for them, especially with a German father right after World War II. Well, what's little known about this is that a lot of these women, a lot of these daughters and sons were adopted into American military families, adopted by colonels and majors and generals. Now, when you go back and you start looking at a lot of powerful politicians around the world, Jill Biden, for example. Jill Biden's a great example. Blonde-haired, blue-eyed, but yet her mother was a school teacher. Her father was a military officer. Interesting. Lynn Forrester Day Rothschild, who's the heir to the Rothschild dynasty, who's not even a blood Rothschild. She was a middle-class girl that grew up in New Jersey. Mother was a school teacher. Father was a military officer. Well, wait a minute here. How do these people rise up to the top echelons? Well, that's what we're talking about with Follow the Wives. That's what we're talking about here is that the New World Order, as in the boards talk about, is not new. It's Nazi world order. You got to remember the financiers behind World War II. Germans didn't finance their own operation. This is the Dutch monarchy. This is the British monarchy. This is the Vatican giving them the go-ahead. This is Western industrialists, Henry Ford, so forth, the Carnegies. funding the operations of the Nazis. Why? Because this was the usher in of their New World Order, and the Nazis were going to be the ones to deliver it to them. But first, the Nazis had to do something. The Nazis had to go out there and they had to destroy the Bolsheviks, because the Bolsheviks had just killed the Romanov family in Russia. And they saw that, hey, look, this creation of communism that we created is now turning against us. And you have these rogue forces rising up, destroying our royal bloodlines. We have to destroy that. And they used the Nazis to go in there. And what happened? Well, the Russians kicked the Nazis' ass. And so, well, now you got the largest army in the world, very powerful military. What do? You expand and you start to implement your New World Order, because you got to go to plan B. If you can't take out the Bolsheviks, then you better take out all the other countries that they're going to invade before they invade them. And you better take control of them and expand your military reach. And then you draw into World War II.
Jump out, jump back in.
You or me? Me? You,
yeah.
Okay, 1 second.
So I'm going to let Josh reconnect this stuff, bring you back. I want to say this for everybody that's watching, that just joined from Rumble. You want to definitely go back, watch the beginning of this show. It's going to make sense of how we got here so you guys can understand it. Also, I want to make sure you guys see an article that we were talking about. It's from Back in Political that brings up Joe Biden's brother and Scott Green from the NFL Referees Association, how all this ties into the whole Jeffrey Epstein plot, the human trafficking plot. And let me bring Josh up here real quick. Oh.
I can hear your ass now.
All right, sweet deal. No, I was letting the people that just got into the show tonight kind of recovering what we covered at the front end of this, and I wanted to make sure they had an understanding of the Joe Biden and his brother with the Epstein Island, so it all comes full circle, and so they know, hey, I want to go watch this.
I can give a quick summarization if anybody out there really wants to know what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here.
I do want you to recap it, but you covered that one on the farm, but I want to bring this one back up too, just because I don't want to pass it and all the information you provided there with the Nellie Orr and the being fluent.
What we're talking about is Fusion GPS, which was Bruce and Nellie Orr, who were the people that were with Perkins Coie that helped set up the Steele dossier that worked with Chris Steele. What you'll find out is they're just another extension of this deep state intelligence apparatus that Nellie Orr trained on the farm, fluent in Russia during the 1980s, trained as a CIA operative. Then what happens when the Cold War ends? They distribute all of their former CIA operatives that were trained on the farm out into the real world to work for think tanks, to work for NGOs and other organizations. They join globalist organizations, they infiltrate, and now they begin working on their global conspiracy. A lot of this started in the 1980s. Well, in the 1990s is really when the implementation of a lot of this started to come about.
I'm right there with you, brother. Give me 1 second.
Killing it on Rumble. What's up, Rumble? Guys, make sure you guys are following Badlands, as well as all Alpha Warrior and myself. Got some links right there. If you want to check us out and learn some more, you can check out those links. Now, for a quick just summary recap of what we've been talking about tonight, we went over Trump's Bella post in the context that was the EU waving the white flag to Donald Trump and Russia, that basically Russia is going to get everything they want as the war is about to end, and Trump is the one that's bringing that about. He probably threatened higher sanction or higher tariffs on EU if they did not comply, but also gave them a pretty tits weapon deal that they get to resell directly to Ukraine, which is kind of interesting. But also with that whole Russia and Trump, the Arctic is one of the key components of all of this. So I want people to understand why that was in Alaska, because that's a representative of America, Russia, prior to 1867, that this is a shared territory in the Arctic that we're both close to. And the real world war that is going on right now, the Cold War that we're seeing in the world, is the AI Cold War. And that's between China and the United States. And what we've been seeing as of recently is basically battle lines are being drawn. Who is aligning with who? Trump is, I think, signifying that Europe and Russia are aligning with the United States, which Russia is really the big one that matters. China is being left in the dirt. The Belt and Roads Initiative has been simply decimated by Donald Trump and all of his tariffs and various different sanctions. Iran was one of the last straws for China on an arbitrage of oil. Now we have India actually playing that game and probably going to go to China's side. But with Russia and the United States teaming up on trade and opening up trade channels in the Arctic and going on mining collaborations in the Arctic and drilling offshore of Alaska for oil and gas, this is huge. This is absolutely huge. And if you can get an alliance that actually develops out of this, you're going to see China basically be neutralized overnight. And I think that we're already getting the indications of this. Now, the other part that we covered, Venezuela. So you remember we talked about the Smartmatic executive in Florida who is in federal custody right now. Now, you got to remember, in the last few months, this man's been talking. Well, what else happened? Last week, Pam Bondi issues a $10 million bounty on Nicolas Maduro's head, the president of Venezuela. The U.S. deploys 4 U.S. Navy destroyers, 2 amphibs with 4,000 Marines to stop drug trafficking. For anybody out there, I spent 10 years in the United States Navy. The first 6 years in my United States Navy career, 3 of them were Southern Pacific deployments, South PACs in Southcom AOR out of Florida. What did we do? We went out there and did counter-interdiction operations, human trafficking, and narco-terrorism. Now, typically there would be 2 frigates out in the west and 2 frigates out in the east. So you'd have an Atlantic in the Caribbean, 2 frigates. In the west, you would have 2 frigates, and they would be operating down there, and we'd interdict all different types of drug smugglers. Is there any need for 4,000 Marines? Not ever in the world for any of those types of operations. But what's changed? More recently, the Venezuelan cartels have been labeled as terrorist organizations. This brings in a whole new context because if people didn't know, the U.S. Navy would always have to have on board a Coast Guard leadette detachment, a Coast Guard law enforcement detachment with them. The reason being is when we get ready to interdict a vessel in international waters, the U.S. Navy does not have jurisdictional authority because that's an act of war. We'd actually have to call up that country's consulate. We'd have to get permission to board that vessel. And when we did, we would raise the Coast Guard flag under the Department of Homeland Security, not under the DOD, and the Coast Guard leadette would run the operation of going on board with our visit board search and seizure team, and then we would secure the vessel, and then they could perform interdiction operations. But with Trump going out there and labeling these cartel organizations as terrorist organizations, now you have direct interdiction from the U.S. military, just like we did in the Straits of Hormuz with interdicting various different vessels because they were labeled terrorist organizations. So why do we have 4,000 Marines out there? Because right now there's a war ramping up against Venezuela. They are going to remove Nicolas Maduro from Venezuela. They're going to free the grips of that country from its tyrant that is in control right now. And you're going to see that play out over the next few weeks. Now, why does that also matter? Because in the United States, over the last 4 years, you've had millions of illegal immigrants flood through, a lot of them Tren de Agua, various different cartel and gang members, Chinese military age males, Middle Eastern terrorist organizations, Hezbollah Unit 910, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, all of them. Now, Alpha, they came through the Darien Gap in Panama, right? Now,
Correct.
Do you know what country Panama is right next to? Venezuela. There's actually only one connection between South America and Central America, and that's in Panama. It's called the Bridge of America, and it connects Panama and Venezuela. Now, interesting enough is they didn't come into Darien Gap. They walked over the Bridge of America to the Darien Gap from Venezuela. This means that all the Northern Africans or Middle Eastern people or Chinese people were coming into Venezuela. Now, ask yourself, how did they get there? How did they get to Venezuela? They were flowing there, or they were sailed there on ships, right? Who paid for that? China paid for that.
I'm trying to bring something up because I want to ask you on this.
China paid for that. So, in other words, Venezuela is proxy for China's deep state. Understand that the sleeper cells that are inside the United States, the reason Trump is deploying the National Guard potentially and federal law enforcement agents of 32 cities in 7 different states over the course of the next few weeks. Why they're in Washington, D.C., why we have Hezbollah Unit 910 sleeper cells throughout our country, why we have terrorist organizations and cartel members in our cities is because when they are activated, they are meant to bring about absolute chaos in our streets and take down America from the inside. This was China's plan all along. And then once the city streets are in complete chaos and fire, and the cities have fallen and the states have all but fallen, that's when the 3 million Chinese military-age males that came over the border as well begin to stand up and start taking over each different state. This is the only way that China would have ever invaded the United States. It actually won. But with 20,000 troops in the southern border, with all the National Guard being deployed, with 4,000 Marines in the Caribbean ready to invade Venezuela, what is that? The 4,000 Marines sitting on LPDs and LHAs in the Caribbean right now is a warning to Nicolas Maduro that if you activate your sleeper cells in the United States, we are invading and killing you. That's how Trump operates, and that's what you're seeing right now.
So let me ask you this, and because this kind of fits into the conversation that you're having right now. So this was quite a few weeks ago, and it's a person that you're familiar with. I'll tell you off air. Had told me, hey, start bringing attention to this. There was a couple, but in particular, this is one of the ports. And here in this article, it says Shanghai, if I'm saying it correctly. Port opens as China's gateway to South America. Peru's new megaport is poised to transform global trade, but China's portfolio stretches far beyond the port. This article is from 2024, November of 2024. But let me just read this first paragraph here. A Chinese-funded megaport project in Shanghai, Peru, will be inaugurated today, is expected to upend current shipping patterns and transform global trade for years to come. Coinciding with the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation (APEC) summit held in Lima, Chinese President Xi Jinping has traveled to Peru to attend via video the inauguration ceremony of the port. Once operational, Shanghai will become the largest deepwater port on the western coast of South America, capable of docking container ships that cannot go elsewhere in South America and cutting shipping times from China in half, by up to 20 days. It goes on and on and on, but given the conversation you're having and with these interjecting things you're talking about, and we know that these ports were being used, and we know at least the level of influence China had at the Panama Canal, and we know Trump's been stripping that away from them. We know there's reasons he's calling the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. We know that there's a strategic plan that's playing out on the waters surrounding South America. Is this kind of part of the conversation that you're having here? If you're tracking.
Let me bring some context in here too. China just launched a rocket into space carrying satellites in collaboration with Mexico. I'll say that again. China and Mexico have teamed up to deploy satellites. That's the neighbor of the United States of America that is in bed with China. What did we hear pre 2020, January 21st, 2025, is that the Mexican cartels were working with Chinese special forces operators. Okay, this war is really, really real of what is going on right now, but you have to understand what the real war is. Like I said, it's an invisible silent war. It's a cold war, and it deals with technology. It deals with that same person that you were just talking about that mentioned you the ports is the same person that will tell you that this is all about technology. Now, in order for technology to come about, in order for us to have tomorrow's age technology that artificial superintelligence is going to create, number one is we have to get the artificial superintelligence. But before that, we have to set the foundation for it. We have to build the infrastructure. We have 100-year-old infrastructure here in the United States of America. Well, in order to do all of this, number one is you need raw resources. Resources are key. Number two is you need energy. Energy is key. Number three is you have to be able to control the flow of resources and energy. Shipping lanes and channels and ports, the Arctic Circle, Russia, and the US, just like I just mentioned. So why was Iran taken out in collaboration from China? Did you know that China and Iran were building a transcontinental railway from China into Europe to basically go around all maritime routes? Now, why is that a problem for the United States of America when resources are the primary military bullet being shot back and forth? Because now the U.S. loses its dominance with the U.S. Navy and its ability to put sanctions on any maritime channel like the Straits of Hormuz or the Straits of Taiwan and so forth. Now China is uncontrolled and can now more efficiently get supplies or resources into anywhere it wants to go. But the U.S., by going into Iran, has basically collapsed that whole idea, as well as China was buying 70% market discounted oil directly from Iran at 30% market rate. Why? Because China needs oil. Why does China need oil? It's about energy. Well, that isn't happening anymore after the U.S.-Iran conflict. Even though there's still negotiations going on, you're going to see Iranian sanctions released and Iran joining the global trade partners. Same thing with Russia over the course of the next few weeks. That was one of the negotiations with Trump and Putin this last weekend. So what you're seeing with Trump doing, renegotiating the world, trying to get Greenland. Why? Because there's $3.7 trillion worth of natural resources locked up in Greenland, but it also gives us a main hub for the control of the Arctic trade channels. And the Arctic alone, the Arctic Circle, there's trillions of dollars worth of oil, gas, and other natural resources. Why is he calling Canada the 51st state? Because he wants northern Canada, because in northern Canada you have rich uranium, oil, and rare earth mineral in metal deposits. Under the United States of America alone, there's $124 trillion worth of various different natural resources, which were just unlocked under the big, beautiful bill. At the end of the day, what we're talking about here is the first country that obtains ASI, artificial superintelligence, has absolute superiority. They are a hyperpower. And if China wins that war, we lose, period. It's over. It's done. Global communism. Okay? So when we start talking about the technology of tomorrow, all of this stuff becomes incredibly relevant. What China is doing specifically and where they are porting their ships, where they are creating maritime trade channels, who they are negotiating trade deals with, like India today, is very, very big on Trump's radar. Pulling Russia away from China is what Trump is trying to do, and I think that he might have done it. It's probably the largest strategic move that can happen anywhere in this Cold War that we're seeing right now. The reason I say that is because when you start to look at military action, kinetic action with Russia or the United States and China, if the United States and China went head on, China would lose. Okay, they would get decimated. The only way that China would ever fare a chance militarily against the United States is with Russia. Okay? With Russia and Iran, because that's where their largest flow of oil comes in from. You got to remember, Trump went out there and negotiated $10 trillion of investment capital coming into the United States over the course of the next 10 years from the United Arab Emirates, from Saudi Arabia, and from Qatar. Well, what does that mean? That means that those three countries, OPEC, are heavily invested into the United States technological infrastructure over the next 10 years. So if a war broke out, do you think that those countries are going to trade with China? If the war is between China and the United States, do you think they're going to sell China gas? No. Trump's going to ensure that that doesn't happen. So that means that China has to buy their gas from rogue states that are under sanctions, Iran and Russia. What did Trump just do more recently? We went into Iran. Iran's no longer doing the oil trades at reduced market prices with China. Who did he just negotiate with this weekend? Putin. He's pulling them away from the China contraption, limiting China's ability to get resources and oil and gas, and then cutting them off on maritime trade channels, because if he can do that, it speeds up our evolution towards ASI, because we have to win that war or it's all over.
And he has to do this. He has to create this hurdle, because this brings us all the way back to the very beginning of when we started doing Defcon. Explained to everybody that when Hillary Clinton's emails got leaked, the whole WikiLeaks on her emails and the special access programs, that gave China the lead on a lot of those patents and a lot of that technology. But in order to follow through with that, they need this energy that you're talking about. So Trump needs to buy time.
There it is.
Trump needs to buy time by cutting off their ability to have the energy and the resources to facilitate the stuff that they stole from us. Meanwhile, we have control of that. So as we catch up with what they're trying to put us behind, it creates it more of a fair race, because we're coming together. And just so people understand, when we're talking about Xi and the CCP, there's the understanding that obviously China has the deep state apparatus, just like the United States and Russia and everybody else.
I think Xi is actually in alignment with Trump. But so now going back to what you just said, go back to Defcon Zerq, the first episode, and I lay out the SAP program specifically about how Hillary Clinton's 36 to 39 emails that went missing were testified under oath by the Inspector General of the Intelligence Committee, McCullough, in front of House Intelligence Committee Chairman Chavez, where he said that they were Oricon SAP program emails. What was in them? We learned this because if those emails were on a server under the Huber report, on a server, and metadata on that home server was sending these emails to China, we know this because it was an email address that they found the login IP addresses, and the login IP addresses were offshore China. So we know that the metadata in Hillary Clinton's home email server, every time she replied and forwarded to an email, would send it to this Gmail address, which had IP addresses in proximity to China. Now, why is that important? Because she only did it 39 times. The 39 times are the Oricon, the SAP, and the USAP email programs that she had that McCullough was actually testifying about in Congress. Why is this important? Because we try to figure out what was in those emails. Well, we actually find it out in the beginning of the first Trump administration in 2016, when Trump and Pompeo create what's known as the China Initiative. The China Initiative was a rounding up of over 37 to 38 college professors from various different universities who had direct connections and ties to the Thousand Talents program, as well as the educational exchange programs that Barack Obama brought about, to where China would go into the universities, bring those professors over to China, and they got them all on tax fraud. But the interesting thing is that the majority of every single one of those scientists arrested under the Department of Justice under Trump's China Initiative was operating on a National Science Foundation grant, Department of Defense, Department of Energy, NASA, or a DARPA grant. What does that mean in other circles? That means that they were working on highly classified programs directed under the National Science Foundation, other words, SAP programs. What type of technologies were they working on? Nanotechnology, nanobioelectrical mechanisms, space systems, space material systems, space propulsion, advanced weapon systems, artificial intelligence. So what happened during this time? What was in Hillary Clinton's emails? Hillary Clinton's emails were the college and the professor that were getting granted research grants on SAP programs, specifically exotic technology acquired by our government through decades, that was now finally being released into the universities. The universities would get this to specific professors. They would get the grant. China would get the email from Hillary Clinton that she was put access on by Jake Sullivan. She would send that off to China through her email server. China would go in, fund that university, take that professor, bring them to the Wuhan Institute of Technology or other universities in China, steal their research, steal the material. And this is how China increased their military progressiveness in just 40-year military advancement in just 10 short years. And this is how they matched us technologically. Now, with that being said, is there's technology out there right now that we possess that we don't understand or that we can't control fully. In other words, we can use the stuff that we have and it works, but we can't really develop it fully to our own scope and capacity to fully utilize it. And the reason being is because we don't have the right infrastructure in place. And so in order for all this technology to come out at some point in time in the near future, you have to build a new infrastructure. Well, the globalists, the 16-year plan, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, you got to remember, part of the 16-year plan was Hillary Clinton was going to have war with Russia. And then then you're going to have a virus outbreak that kills 85% of the population. And then you have the birth of the New World Order. What was their objective? Their objective was to bomb the shit out of all the old infrastructure in cities, just like they did in World War II and World War I. And then when they bombed it, they're going to build it back up. They're going to build it back better, right? But that didn't happen. Instead, Donald Trump said, no. I see an opportunity. Instead of bombing this shit and doing all this other stuff and killing off the population, let's bring opportunity to the people. Let's bring in investment capital. Let's get some tractors and some bulldozers out there and let's renovate this shit. Let's build it. Let's do it. And that's what's happening right now. But in order to do that, you got to beat China.
I'd keep asking questions, brother, and we would keep going all freaking night. But we got to get to these rants. And before we do the rants, I want
15,000 on Rumble.
to. No, I'm
Love
smiling.
you
at
guys.
that.
Thank you guys.
What I'll say to this to all the new viewers, we're gonna do the rants right now, but you want to stick by because after the rants, I'm gonna be playing a movie trailer from one of our very own here at the Badlands family, Brad. We had the private premiere this past week at Gart in Deadwood, and the funny thing is the show started with the conversation that you were talking about, Josh, with the with the Moab of the deep state. And the other thing was the particular date of 9/11.
Mhm.
This movie trailer that we're going to see, following the rants is Codex 9/11. It's a little over 2.5 hours, and it is the Moab of 9/11. I've seen a lot of documentaries. I felt like I did an extensive amount of work and research. I've interviewed Dave Von Gleis. He was one of the original reporters that, I mean, he took in all the source material when 9/11 first happened.
I knew Major General Dave Gurley.
So,
If people don't know who he is, look him up.
we're going to talk, but also had a chance to interview Richard Gage from the architects of 9/11. So, like I said, I've had a lot of information surrounding it. So I was mostly watching this film because I wanted to support a fellow brother from Badlands. There was so much stuff that I was like, what?
Robert Mueller, the FBI director.
Dude, so much information. So following the Rumble rant, stick around. Going to play the trailer for you guys. That movie's going to premiere this Sunday at 9 p.m. 6 p.m. Eastern. So this Sunday, the 24th at 6 p.m. Eastern, that movie's going to premiere here on Badlands. So make sure you guys tune into it. It is going to blow your mind. But we got about a 1-minute trailer at the end of the show tonight that we'll play. So with that,
and with everybody out there, before you get into these, dude, alphawarrior.tv, go and follow this man. Get linked to his Rumble channels. He's got awesome content. His X. For myself, I'm on Rumble as well. Red Pill Project. You can just look it up. Red Pill Project TV. Redpills.tv is another place to find that, as well as the links right there on X at Real Joshua Reid. Check that out. And then redpillproject.substack.com is my Substack. And then guys, go follow Badlands. Follow that link right there on that Rumble channel. Make sure you're subscribed to get in on this every week, as well as Brad's video coming out Sunday.
Boom. Appreciate that. So let me do this. Let me bring these rants on the screen. We're going to start from the earliest one and we'll work our way up. Shout out to Atomic Blonde, who gave us a $5 Rumble rant before the show even started at 9:13 p.m. Eastern. She gave it and said, let's go. So thank you for that. Next, one of my favorites, $20 from Breadmaker62. Everyone, please keep James R. in your prayers.
Yeah.
Love that guy and was sat into here today, Semper Fortis. For those of you that don't know, James R., I've had him on before with the Badlands shows. I've had him on my show. He is a true friend, and he had a stroke today, you guys. And my understanding of it, without going, I don't know how much they're going to release publicly, but it was serious. So you guys, please keep James R. from Pirate Radio in your prayers. I believe in the power of prayer. I believe in the power of manifestation. And there's a good patriot that needs prayer and manifestation tonight. So you guys just remember James R. and that'll mean a lot to me, as well as Brett and everyone else. $50 coming in from JB Rum 20. God bless both of you and all the truth you speak. Godspeed. Thank you for that. Another $5 one from Truth Bombs Incoming, Atomic Blonde. Thank you for all the support tonight. $10 from Flying Storm. We can now surveillance them currently. Their communications are being spied on, by which the actual real crimes committed. FISA works both ways. And you nailed that one today too, Josh. Funky Joe Medina. Love the new show. You guys rock. We love you too, Funky Joe Medina. So thank you for that. $50 coming in from Hope Continues. I went through the withdrawals with no show last week. Love your show. So informative. Thanks, Alpha and Josh. I'll tell you guys what, I'm going to take the onus on last week. I should have communicated with Josh earlier. He could have just ran the show, or we could have even did a canned show. So in the future, we'll make sure to not make you guys have to wait a week for the show. $20 coming from Up North and Soon. Josh, you're 100% spot on. Trump also mentioned this weekend after the Putin call that there are 11 or maybe nine time zones. So I believe 9/11 is correct. I did not catch that. So Up North Soon, if you can send us that link, I would definitely appreciate that because that one got by me. Were you aware of that one, Josh?
I was not.
Yeah, so that'd be very interesting to see that. $10 from Reid 29. Brad's release of Codex 911. Fire. Absolutely. We're going to see that trailer at the end of this. $2 from Angie K. This is why BB, when here said, all these protests against Israel are ran by Iran. Where is the heads of CARE and the Brotherhood? Iran. Let's continue. $1 from Angie K again. And the Lex guy who owns Victoria's Secret just bought Obama's villa for $36 million. Yeah, that was like I think 2 weeks ago.
How do you pay these people? Book deals and real estate, people. You're going to hear about that with the Act Blue that's coming out really soon here.
They are screwed with Act Blue. Shout out Sean Taylor. Reid 29. Be sure to check your boost. Absolutely will. As a matter of fact, I believe I brought that screen up to go there and take a look at them. $10 from DAC8869 at the Alpha War Show. Why are you gay? Love you, brother. Did my best to say it as the way you intended. $20 US Advocate. Excellent content. Thank you to so much. And thank you for the support. $20 coming in from Lynn Yoda. Love this show. Thank you for bringing it to us. Thank you guys for sharing it and supporting us while we do it. $10 again from Up North Soon. CARE with Aberdeen. No doubt this organization in Minnesota that helps Somalis out is linked. caremn.org. Yeah, listen, Minnesota's got a lot of MB tied to it. And if you guys go watch a lot of the videos, more than likely, more than half of them are going to be coming out of Minnesota. I got a bunch of stuff saved on that. Dollar coming from ZBM. With all the works being put into fixing the U.S. and other nations' deep evil issues, I'm just not feeling like the second coming is as close as people think. Just saying, loving the show, boys. Here's the thing. Everybody kind of looks, and Josh, you can fire off on this one as you want to, but ZBM, everybody kind of looks as the final phase, but you got to understand that there's different phases in these things. And the ultimate end of this is something that's probably going to be, 10 years, 20 years out, like the ultimate ending. But what you're talking about, the annihilation of the core part of the deep state that's going to allow all that stuff to facilitate out, is we're not too far from that. It's going to happen before the end of this presidency. There's no choice.
Yeah, and one of the parts that start looking at is that what we're watching right now is the systematic destruction of the old guard. It's the decimation of the foundational leadership of the evil that has reigned on this world for a very, very, very long time, for millennia, people. And you have to understand that evil is being eradicated right now. So stages are coming. Just wait. This is going to get a lot better.
Listen, y'all, we're on the right side of history here, and just keep this president, keep the good guys all in your prayers. $5 coming from Melindy. Here is a splendid thread about Melania's letter to Putin. Believes she is calling him to be kingly. And then there's the link there. I'll leave that up. I won't shadow that out so I can go and look at it. $11 from Sunny Ray. Crazy thought. What if Putin brought Snowden with him on his plane? After Trump and Putin left in the Beast, Snowden was moved from Putin's plane and put on Air Force One.
That'd be interesting.
Listen, I'm open for anything.
I know there was a prisoner exchange that was said to happen there.
Very interesting. $10 from Weezer Wheeze, Alpha, and Josh. You guys are rocking it tonight. Thank you for that, Weezer. $5 from Faith and Freedom. 2017, California quietly reopened rare earth mining, shut down in 2002. By 2020, producing 15% of the world's rare earth. Yet we hear nothing of it. Wouldn't New Scum be bragging? I have to look into that. I was not aware of that. And that is the last Rumble rant of the night. So let me pull that off the screen. Josh, anything you want to put out there to everybody? You want to plug your stuff and I'll plug my stuff, and then we'll get this trailer rocking.
Yeah, lots of my research, guys. I share it on my Substack, so redpillproject.substack.com. Thanks for all the support out there, as well as X is the primary place to find me other than Rumble. So at Real Joshua Reid, last name REID, on X, and then on Rumble, Red Pill Project, all one word on Rumble. You can just go ahead and search that, or rumble.com/c/redpillproject. Sometimes I have autism, so I apologize.
The good kind, brother. The good kind.
Yeah.
I'm like that too, man. I'm just like, I need to drink some water, and I ran out of water, and then something even funnier happened here in the studio. But here's what I'll say. You guys, if you want to see my content outside of Badlands, go search on Rumble, The Alpha Warrior Show. You can go and get in the trenches of information warfare with me on X at XAlphaWarriorX, or just find everything Alpha at alphawarrior.tv. All those links, including the links to our sponsors for tonight's show, are down in the description. So let me bring on this post. You guys are going to enjoy this. So first, you guys got to follow Brad at Brad_CGZ.
He's in the chat. He's in the Rumble chat. Yeah, he's in the Rumble chat.
Oh, right on. Well, I'm simping for you, Brad, and you guys know I'm anti-simping, but the flowers are deserved. But you guys got to go for the boost. That's right. I almost forgot about the boost. Let me get the YouTube ones first. $4.99 coming in from Peace. Show on fire. Actually, I can bring these on the screen so people can see these. And then another one from Kathy LaBelle, $10. Best show on YouTube. You guys rock. We love this show. Thanks, Alpha and Josh. So now let me go and get the boost. Let me see, find them. Where the hell did I put them? Bear with me, people. Bear with me. You can plug some air real quick, Josh. I got so many damn windows open right now, bro.
Oh, do you need the trailer?
No. I have the trailer.
Okay.
I got to go to Badlands to get the boost because somebody mentioned it, which means that it's probably there, and I now have it up. Let me reload.
Well, guys, also, we appreciate all the support. If you're looking for our sponsor for tonight, go check them out. Badlands.tv, badlandsmedia.tv/meds, MEDS. You can use that and use that promo code Save Health. So please go check them out. Badlandsmedia.tv/meds and use that promo code Save Health. That helps keep us on the air and helps keep us all alive out here, guys.
100%. And for those that don't want to do it on YouTube or don't want to do it on X, these are different platforms, or Rumble, you can go to badlandsmedia.tv and / go to boost. It'll bring you in the right direction if I'm off. But here's the one from tonight. Reaper Heart 29, Defcon Zerq. Holy smokes. That is a big boost. $91.10. Gentlemen, this show is fire tonight. This is a week to remember, and Brad's Codex 911 is a Moab. It absolutely is. So with that, let's get into this. You guys, again, thanks for supporting us. You guys can catch Defcon Zerq every Tuesday night, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Show ran a little long tonight, so we didn't take any calls. But next week, we will definitely get back to the taking calls. You guys will enjoy this. We'll catch you next time. God bless and simplify. Awesome. Remember, keep my brother James R. in your prayers. We'll catch you guys next time.
There was a secondary explosion, probably a device either planted before or on the aircraft that did not explode until an hour later.
Well, bottom line,
the peaceful villagers
blocks from the World Trade Center. This is clearly the way the structure is collapsing. This was the result of something that was planned.
I want you to